The mayor of the Ukrainian city of Sumy, Oleksandr Lysenko, has been suspended from his duties until December 9th by the High Anti-Corruption Court of Ukraine, which issued such a decision on October 9th. Earlier, on October 2 to be exact, Lysenko, along with Oleksandr Zhurba, the city's infrastructure manager, were arrested on suspicion of accepting a bribe. The amount of the bribe was 1,400,000 hryvnia, or $38,000. The detention took place thanks to the actions of the Security Service of Ukraine and the National Anti-Corruption Bureau of Ukraine. According to law enforcement authorities, the bribe amount was part of a larger sum of 2,130,000 hryvnias, or $58,000. It was supposed to be a stipend that a local waste collection company had to pay in order not to face obstacles in doing business. According to investigators, the corrupt activities took place between November 2022 and October 2023. If convicted, the two men could spend up to 8 years in prison, plus their assets could be confiscated. On October 4th, the court decided to remand Lysenko in temporary custody with the possibility of release on property bail of 3 million hryvnias, or $82,000. A day later, Lysenko was released after posting bail. On October 9th, during a live television appearance, Ukraine's military intelligence spokesman, Andrii Yusov, admitted that Ukraine was behind the October 7th missile attack on Crimea, a territory occupied by Russia. Yusov revealed that the target of the attack was a Russian military facility near Dzhankoy in the northern part of Crimea, which caused losses in Russian ranks. Nevertheless, he did not release any more specific information on the subject. On the same day, the Russian Defense Ministry announced that Crimea was the target of a missile attack around 18 o'clock, followed by another attack around 2 o'clock. Both attacks, according to the ministry, were carried out using modified S-2 anti-aircraft missiles. There were reports on social media of an audible explosion near Dzhankoy and a missile trail visible in the sky, confirming the information provided by Ukrainska Pravda. It is important to note that since the summer, Crimea, which has been under Russian occupation since 2014, has seen increasingly intense attacks directed against Russian military facilities. The main target of these attacks is Russia's Black Sea Fleet, which has a base in Crimea. In recent weeks, the fleet has been the target of a series of determined attacks, including on its command center on September 20 and its main base on September 22. The Ukrainian Defense Ministry's main intelligence directorate, HUR, has announced that Russia has supplied Hamas with US and European origin weapons it has captured in Ukraine. This is part of Moscow's broad tactics to undermine Ukraine's credibility on the international stage, especially in the Middle East. Russia wants to accuse Ukraine of supporting Hamas by supplying it with Western weapons. To promote this narrative, Moscow intends to use statements by Ruslan Sirovoy, a former Ukrainian border service officer who fled to Russia. The goal of this Russian campaign is to create anxiety among Western countries and disrupt the supply of weapons for Ukrainian armed forces. In the context of the situation in the Middle East, intensive rocket fire on Israel was carried out from the territory of the Gaza Strip on October 7th. In response to these actions, the Israel Defense Forces initiated an operation called Iron Swords. On October 8th, for the first time since the year 1973, Israel declared a state of war. The country's prime minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, called on Gaza residents to leave the area and warned against the outbreak of a prolonged conflict. According to information provided by Andrii Yusov, Mariupol, a city in the Donetsk region, is being intensively fortified by Russian military forces. Increased movement of air defense systems and additional deployment of communication systems along the coast have been spotted there. Russian forces are also installing equipment in Mariupol to monitor residents' communications, and 40 observation towers have been erected over the past 3 months. In the center of the city, there has been a conflict involving people possibly associated with Kadyrov's forces and Russian soldiers. The Russian military is also reinforcing its defensive positions near Mariupol, moving special defensive devices referred to as Dragon's Teeth there. Their purpose is not only to secure Mariupol, but also to establish a land corridor leading to Crimea. In addition, Russia plans to expand Mariupol's infrastructure, including deepening the port and building roads and a rail link to meet logistical needs. Mariupol, which had been under siege by Russian forces since the beginning of March 1922, was finally occupied by them in mid-May of that year. Israel's ambassador to Ukraine, Michael Brodsky, stressed in an interview for Kiev Post the uniqueness of the conflicts involving the two countries, despite the fact that Iran provides military support to both Russia and Hamas. Brodsky expressed skepticism about Iran's assurances of non-involvement in Hamas attacks on Israel and other conflicts around the world. He added that military cooperation with Iran is unacceptable. Describing the current situation in Israel, Brodsky pointed out that although fighting is still ongoing in some regions, most of the terrorists have already been defeated. The next step is to eliminate terrorist structures in the Gaza Strip, with the participation of some 300,000 mobilized reservists who will soon begin ground operations. When asked about the reasons for Hamas's attack on Israel, the ambassador pointed to Hamas's overt intentions to destroy Israel. He indicated that full answers to questions about the surprise attack will be available once the investigation is completed. Brodsky stressed that it would be misleading to compare the situations of Ukraine and Israel. On the evening of October 9th, residents of western Ukraine experienced earth tremors from an earthquake in eastern areas of Slovakia. Authorities in the Transcarpathian region confirmed the information and began inspections to assess possible damage to infrastructure. The head of the state administration of the Transcarpathian region noted that these were the third such phenomena in the Carpathian mountain range. The mayor of Lviv, Andrii Yusov, mentioned that the tremors were noticed around 9:35 p.m. local time. German website volcanodiscovery.com indicated that the quake had a magnitude of 5 1/10 on the Richter scale and occurred at 8:23 p.m. In a recent interview for NV, Kirilo Budanov, head of Ukraine's main intelligence directorate, let out a hint about 3 attempts by Ukrainian forces to recapture key sites of Energodar and the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. The first of these operations took place last August with the goal of establishing a foothold on the left bank of the district. Several dozens of commandos crossed the Kachovka Reservoir using fast boats. Nevertheless, this initiative ended in failure and the need to withdraw. 2 more landing attempts on the left bank of the Russian-controlled Dnieper River had similar results. One of them involved soldiers from the International Legion, thanks to which the Russians had to intensify their presence on the shoreline by deploying heavy equipment. With the beginning of the Russian invasion of Ukraine last spring, Russia took control of the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant and neighboring Energodar. Although representatives of the International Atomic Energy Agency are stationed at the plant, their access is limited. The organization's leader has expressed concern about the plant's security, stressing that it can no longer provide full protection. With conflict erupting in Israel, President Joe Biden finds himself in a difficult position, grappling with 2 separate crises around the world at a time when internal political tensions in Washington are making decision-making difficult. Although Biden has years of foreign policy experience, current events are a test of his ability to unite allies at home and abroad in the face of growing challenges. Shortly after the Hamas attack on Israel, Biden reaffirmed steadfast U.S. support for Israel's security, and Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin reinforced this effort by directing a U.S. strike group toward the eastern Mediterranean. Nevertheless, the current clashes in the Middle East come as a surprise for the Biden administration, which was aware of the possibility of conflict in Europe, but did not anticipate a violent escalation in Israel. In addition to the challenges on the international stage, Biden faces internal problems in Congress, which, without a permanent spy master, may find it difficult to pass the necessary aid for Israel. This situation underscores the tension and unpredictability of the current moment in American politics, both domestically and internationally. Russia has fired a series of attack drones toward Ukraine's Odessa and Mykolaiv regions, the Ukrainian Air Force reported on October 9th. According to the information, the machines ascended from the Black Sea and could change their direction at around 22:15. Not much later, it was learned of more drones heading toward the Dnipropetrovsk region. On October 8th, Air Force spokesman Yuri Inat predicted that Russia is likely to make heavy use of Shahed kamikaze drones against Ukraine in the following months. He pointed out that in the previous month alone, The Russians used more than 500 such machines in attacks against Ukraine. Predictions are that Russia may step up its targeting of Ukraine's energy infrastructure in the coming period, aiming to disrupt the country's electricity supply. Moscow used a similar strategy during the autumn and winter of the years 2022 and 2023, leading to significant problems with access to electricity and heating on Ukrainian territory.